This was another case of curiosity getting the better of me, and deciding to try out a Rivet Games add-on that I had previously refused to buy for the longest time. Today's topic is the Engineering Express gameplay pack, and to be honest, the main reason I got this pack was just to enable the eventual layer for nuclear flask trains on the Riviera line, although Skyhook's Cargo Line Volume 5 hasn't been released yet at the time of uploading. Rivet Games released their Engineering Express gameplay pack in January 2024, and as of early November 2025, it's still available on Steam. In my local currency, the version compatible with Train Sim World 6 costs $22, but the amount of content included in this pack is too small to justify such a high price. You're only getting 2 new liveries for the Class 66, a diesel locomotive that has been recycled more times than I care to remember, as well as the YGB Sea Cow wagons for some reason. The 66s also have a weird emergency adapter coupler, which enables them to couple up to Class 385 EMUs. Apparently, this pack was originally meant to be released in November 2023 alongside Arosa aggregates, but the release was held back for whatever reason. Considering Rivet Games' reputation for going ahead and releasing rather low-quality DLC anyway, and leaving said DLC in a rough state, the delayed release of Engineering Express caught me by surprise. The 2 new liveries are Direct Rail Services Plain Blue and Ocean Network Express Magenta, the latter being a one-off livery worn by locomotive number 66587, as one we can, because that name's not cringeworthy at all. This pack fell apart from the moment when I examined the locomotives and noticed numerous inaccuracies. For starters, the DRS variant features modern LED headlight clusters, but this model shows the numbers of the XDB 66-0 locomotives that were leased to DRS. As such, the LED light clusters are inaccurate. The situation is no better on Rivet's depiction of 66587. For starters, the Zero Injuries logo is missing, and Rivet didn't bother altering the model to get the accurate low emissions modifications, like the smaller fuel tank and smaller radiator grills at the number 2 end, as seen on the real 66587. It's also worth mentioning that the real 66587 doesn't have a Buckeye coupler, and yet Rivet left a Buckeye in place on the in-game model. Considering how easy it is for one to look up photographs and see what 66587 actually looks like, I don't see how Rivet could do such a poor job on recreating this particular locomotive. You can tell that both reskins were built on the 66 from the Railhead Treatment Train pack, because the cab interiors still feature additional equipment for RHTT duties, and the EWS-specific posters on the rear wall. On the topic of inaccurate cab interiors, there is no GSMR radio module in these cabs, for whatever reason. Engineering Express includes 5 scenarios and a total of 10 timetable mode services for Rivet's Edinburgh to Glasgow route, one on which I don't drive all that much because it's linear and only offers 1 full service, with the situation not being helped by the scenery, which, in my opinion, leaves a lot to be desired. In the default Edinburgh to Glasgow timetable, the DRS Class 66 only has 8 playable services, while the imitation 66587 only has 2 playable services. Fortunately, the DRS Blue and ONE Magenta 66s also have layers on the newer Edinburgh to Glasgow timetable that comes with the ScotRail Class 158, in which they have 5 playable services each, and they also substitute into the timetables on the Brighton Main Line, Cathcart Circle, Cross City Line, ECML Peterborough to Doncaster, East Coastway, Glossop Line, Great Western Express, London Overground Goblin Line, Southeastern High Speed, and West Coast Main Line London to Milton Keynes routes. As mentioned earlier, the DRS Class 66 will also appear on the Riviera line once Cargo Line Volume 5 is released. Come to think of it, I wish we could get more direct rail services locomotives in TSW, such as the Class 57 or Class 88. Personally, I'd prefer to see this electro-diesel over the rebuilt Class 47. As I alluded to when listing the amount of playable services, there's not much additional gameplay offered by Engineering Express, and it's mostly just A to B or B to A Class 385 drags, whose necessity I question. When the Class 385 is being dragged by a diesel, she still has her pantograph up, and you can still hear some of the traction motor sounds. That same issue also occurs when you do a Class 375 drag using the Europhoenix Class 37. Sometimes, you can also take ballast trains with the Class 66, but even at their longest, the consists are quite short for a locomotive this powerful. The wagons are essentially just reskins of the YGB Sea Cow that we already had with Rivet's disastrous West Cornwall local route, and their inclusion in the gameplay pack doesn't make much sense because they are not suitable for the time period in which the Edinburgh to Glasgow route is set. Why Rivet didn't bother modelling a new wagon, one that would be more suitable for modern day works trains, is anyone's guess. When I tried playing the scenario by the name of Spring Morning, I noticed something odd after changing ends just south of Eastfield Depot, prior to departing for Cadder Loop and rescuing a Class 385. I had the tail light switch in the number 1 cab set to on, but it controlled the lights at the number 2 end instead. I would have thought that the tail light switches would control the lights at their respective cab ends, not the opposite end. In closing, I think Engineering Express is one of the worst TSW add-ons I've tried in recent memory, and it only deserves a 3 out of 10. I would have made some compliments had there been anything I liked about this pack, besides the upcoming layer on the Riviera line, not to mention the reskins at least being able to substitute into the timetable on other existing routes. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, my lack of positive comments on this product is not because of any blind hatred or bias against anything to do with Rivet games. To be fair, and somewhat ironically, my favourite route in TSW is actually from Rivet's catalogue. The route in question is Islands Line 2022. Considering the sheer amount of times when we've seen the EWS or DB Cargo UK Class 66s recycled and resold in various TSW add-ons, it's disappointing to see that the only break from that monotony, at least in official DLC, are the crudely made reskins from Rivet games. Their depiction of 66587 is especially crude, and 22 New Zealand dollars is far too high a price for any gameplay pack, let alone one with as many inaccuracies, and as few new additions, as Engineering Express. My advice is to avoid this add-on at all costs, and spend your money on DLC from Just Trains or Train Sim Germany instead.